In this demo, we will add support for versioning to our API. But first of all, we've got to temporarily turn off authentication. At the end of this module, we will integrate the documentation with authentication, allowing us to easily test authenticated calls. But for now, to make our lives a bit easier and to avoid having to provide a token on each request, we'll disable it. That's easy to do. We simply comment out the authorize attributes on top of our controllers. Alright, that's that. Let's open the NuGet dialog. And let's search for Microsoft.ASP.NET Core .mvc.versioning. We install the latest stable version. At the moment of recording, that's version 5. And that's that. In the program file, we registered the versioning related services on our container. To do that, we call into builder.services.add-API versioning. Let's give this a try. Let's navigate to the documentation. Our documentation seems to work. Let's try getting the list of cities. We leave everything at the default values. We get back a 406, that's new. The reason for this is that we pass through text plain as accept header, and that is not supported by our API. We want to pass through application JSON or nothing at all. Let's try that again. And we hit an error. Apparently, the issue is that we didn't specify the version we want. This is new. We are getting this message because we now added versioning support. We could force users to specify a version, but a more common approach is to give back the default when no version is specified. Let's have a look at this add API versioning statement again. As most of these statements that register services on the container, it allows us to pass through an action to set it up and configure it. What we are interested in is the assume default version when unspecified property. When we set this to true, we ensure that we don't need to pass through an explicit requested version to actually get back data. We're also going to set the default version to 1.0. We do that by setting default API version to a new API version object. And we pass through 1.0 for 1.0. Lastly, we're also going to ask the middleware to report back the supported API versions. Like that, it's easy to see what's going on. Alright, let's give this another try. Let's refresh the documentation. We're going to try and get our cities again, so we click try it out. We ensure that we select application JSON, and we click execute. This time, we do get back the list of cities. So far, so good. If we look at the response headers, we also see that API supported versions is set to 1.0. In other words, we automatically got back the default. That said, we haven't versioned anything yet, save for the default 1.0 version. Let's do that in the next demo.